Hello and welcome back to The Stage Door, presented by Canberra Arts and Rogers TV. Now, before we get started, I'm going to let you know I have a bit of congestion. Like many people in the region, I've been affected by one of the colds, so if my voice is sounding a little strange, that's why, and I hope that all of you watching at home are keeping well. So as I said, The Stage Door is presented on Rogers TV by Canberra Arts, an organization located right here in Western Newfoundland that wants to be a part of celebrating and uplifting the artists that our region has to offer. This week, I'm here with two of those fabulous artists, Louise Gauthier and Marcelle Boisjoli. So, folks, welcome to The Stage Door. Great to have you here.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
We always start these conversations with a dive into the roots. It's always funny because as a host, I have the privilege of knowing you very well, but here I get to make new discoveries and share them with our community, which is a wonderful thing too. So Louise, we'll start with you. And the first question is, where did it all begin, this love for arts and wanting to share that?
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, it began with going to theater school, just like you did. I went to York University in Toronto to become an actor. And I worked in Toronto for 25 years in French and in English and with CBC Radio, and did a little bit of music as well. Just started to get into musical theater at the end of that time before I moved here to Newfoundland. My husband got a position at Grenfell Theatre Program, and so we came and we fell in love with the place. We bought a house, and Bob's your uncle. We've been here for 17 years.
Yeah, wow. That's certainly quite exciting. Was there a big moment in that journey where you realized, like, this is what I want to be doing? Was there that magical moment of like, okay,
as a kid, you mean?
Like
maybe,
when even before that.
I remember watching Meryl Streep's movies and also Carol Burnett's. So it was kind of like a mix of the two. I really loved comedy, so I ended up doing a lot of sort of but sketch comedy when I was in Toronto, but also doing dramatic work as well. But I really loved where the two kind of blended, which led me to clown, actually. So I really got into clown when I was in Toronto.
And Marcelle, the same question to you. Where did it all begin?
I think I just always had this urge to express myself. I remember as a child, my favorite thing to do was to put on the vinyl of the Flashdance soundtrack. And like that, that was just, it's one of my core memories, And music, if I think back to my childhood, it's always musical moments. So when I went to a performing arts high school in Ottawa, en français, and when it came time for me to kind of think ahead to post-secondary, it was a no-brainer for me that it would be a music program. So I went to McGill and got 2 degrees in voice performance, and have since pivoted a little bit into the education field, but so now working with children and young adults and adults actually is a really neat way for me to reconnect to that kind of youthful experience of music while also feeding my current urges to perform and to create.
Yeah, definitely. And in terms of that, I know we've had a conversation that there's numerous tapes that you found in your parents' home of you performing through the years that they've saved.
Yes.
Was there a magical moment that brought you to that decision to pursue it?
Well, interestingly enough, I would say that it was when I was about 15, I did, there was, Le Carnaval in wintertime in Eastern Ontario by then. I was born in Alberta, but by then I was in Eastern Ontario. And I had the opportunity to perform, and I did a Lara Fabian song. I did Pas sans toi. And I guess I did well enough to make the front page of the local paper. And that felt like encouragement and, a little nod that what I was doing was well received. And to know that something that I had just kind of fostered and worked on my own was then received by the public was a really special feeling.
Excellent. Yeah, sometimes that's it, right? We get that moment of validation that reminds us it is so important, especially all of us in this conversation are teaching artists. We are arts educators as well in some capacity, whether at a university level, whether at a community level, whether at a youth community level. We are all engaged in that side of things. So I think having those moments that we have, as a teacher, you always want to create the opportunities that you wish you had while building on the ones that you did have for the kids that you work with. And certainly for us at Canberra Arts and Graham Academy, that's part of the foundational goal in building that community and being able to enrich it. And Marcelle, of course, you joined us in our Graham Academy faculty and on stage in the summer at Canberra Arts. What was it that drew you back?
Honestly, it was fated. We had the opportunity to purchase a property actually out in Georges Lake, and we just felt that it was the right place for our family to be. And having been here to perform over the years and having connected with members of the artistic community, I knew that it would be a place where I would be supported and where I could contribute. That was really important.
Well, I think one thing we always end up saying is that the fact that this show can exist in Corner Brook, in Western Newfoundland, that there's enough to talk once a week.
It's crazy.
To an artist about a show coming up, and that's not even all the shows. You know, there's show on show on show, particularly this season, right up till Christmas now. There is something to do every day.
It's an incredibly rich artistic community. It kind of blew our minds when we moved here, coming from such a diverse, rich, full Toronto, and then we got here and there's nothing missing. I mean, there's so much going on. It's hard to keep up at times. There's always something available to do and the community really embraces new ideas. I've done some crazy things like perform dramatic love songs in clown and cabarets, and the audience has been like, "Great, we love this. More of this, please." So it's just you can try different things. Like it's a very open spirit that exists here.
Yeah, absolutely. And Louise, you mentioned that you and your partner both were working in Toronto when he got the job offer for campus that led you here. Yeah. Why'd you stay so long? 17 years. You raised your child here, like you mentioned. So what led you to stay in that wonderful space?
I think it's just what I was kind of just alluding to is that we didn't lack for artistic playground. There was always people we could work with, new projects we could. Well, Michael is teaching and directing at the school, but for me, I started an arts festival, and it's doing great. I've recorded an album with amazing artists from here and from Quebec. So there's just this land of possibilities, very rich. So I really enjoy it. And my daughter actually did some fantastic things here too. She recorded an album as well with her best friend when she was 15, and working with incredible musicians, Steve Maloney and Ramesh, and just it's quite a rich artistic land.
No, it's a unique space for collaboration, not only between artists, but between arts organizations, between teaching artists, and most of our teaching artists are in some capacity still working as artists. Not that teaching isn't that, but being able to perform keeps you on top of things as you teach 100%. And educate, which I think is really important and doesn't always get to happen in other centers, because once you choose that discipline, there you are. That's where you stay. So I think it's a gift in so many ways to be able to share And Louise, you're a great example of that with many disciplines. As you mentioned, you were the executive director for you are the executive director for CB Nui since its inception. The title has changed, but you were there from that very first, which is just amazing to see it grow and thrive and shine. But in addition to that, you have acted both in straight theater, musical theater, done clowning, taught clowning, and taught acting. So what has it been like to do all of those things and find space? And you're a musician with a new album, so.
Yeah, it's been busy. So I'm actually trying to focus more on my music career now. Really put a lot of energy into that, and that's why it's been really great to meet Marcelle. One of the reasons we're beginning to collaborate together, explore what that will be like with a couple of little projects. But yeah, no, I really, it has been busy. So I'm really, my core is telling me to just, as I get older too, that I just really want to focus on one of the disciplines, and that is music, really.
Amazing. So it's that kind of bottle, and now you're reaching a point where you're able to really focus in, which is so exciting.
Yeah.
And exciting that it can happen here. And Marcelle, you as well. You've of course had many classical performances through Canada, but now are here and doing some acting, some collaboration with other artists, going back to your pop roots.
Yes.
So what has that been like to re-engage with some of those things?
It's been so good. It's been so good. I never questioned the path that I took. It made perfect sense for me at the time to pursue classical voice, and for a time I really aspired to be an operatic star, right? But then I started teaching to pay my bills, and I started to find the tremendous value in that. And then, of course, coming here and having these opportunities to kind of dabble in different genres that I haven't been able to play with for a while has been a huge gift. It's been remarkable. We did a folk concert this summer. I had the privilege of learning all of these Newfoundland folk songs that were new to me, but it was such a reminder of what a treasure trove of culture we can find in music of all styles. So to be able to kind of dip into all of them and to learn something from each of them serves me as an artist and as a teacher as well.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think it's a wonderful space that we have for cultural exchange. Here in Corner Brook, 62 Broadway just released their Milltown Records label right here in Corner Brook. It's their first album, and it's world music. From artists that are calling Newfoundland, Labrador home, and came to Corner Brook at some point and recorded a piece. How spectacular that this Corner Brook record label, their first record, is something that gives us so much from people who have chosen this province as their home. I think it's a wonderful thing.
Yeah, it's really cool.
And I think that guides us into our next conversation about music more specifically. Louise, you released a full album. You are a francophone musician, sharing French music that you were able to record partially here, partially in Quebec. What has that meant to be able to embrace that language again and not only, take it for your own artistry, but be able to share it and be supported by people who don't necessarily speak French, but wanted to be a part of the music and sharing your songs and chansons with the broader audience?
Wow. It means so much. When you mentioned about the recordings that you have as a kid, I used to record myself singing Olivia Newton-John songs. Nice. We have those recordings. And then I, went into the acting career, but my family was always like, Louise, you're a singer. Like I sang my sisters to sleep at night. We sang when we did the dishes. But I chose that other path, but coming back to this path just means everything to me. It really feels like my true path. I don't regret anything, but I feel like I'm in my element. I've been writing songs, and they've been sitting in my computer for a long time. Started writing songs like 20 years ago, and then I've been trying to learn to play an instrument, but I just don't ever commit to it 100%. So I felt like I needed to learn that instrument before I could actually put my songs out in the world. And then finally, I met Lou McDonald, and I realized, you know, after speaking with him, that I don't need to do that. Like, I'm a singer, and I just need to collaborate with musicians. So Lou and I collaborated on a couple of my songs. Like, he played my melody and words, and I won a couple of arts and letters awards. And like you were saying earlier, like that really sort of was my kind of like, oh, okay, I've got something here, like a bit of a stamp of approval, I guess. But like, so it was very encouraging, and that led to the next step of recording the full album, because I had like a whole bunch of songs in my computer and in little books and stuff too. Actually, especially in a little book. So yeah, so that path really was so much fun, and bringing, you know, musicians from Quebec. My main musician, Lucie Cochon, is from Montreal, and she created a lot of the arrangements for the songs. And she came here to Newfoundland. We did record a little bit in Montreal, but mostly it was recorded at Phil Churchill's space. Oh my gosh.
The Ginger Beard.
Thank you, Ginger Beard
house.
Studio. Yeah. And, you know, Phil doesn't understand French. And Lucy speaks a very broken English, but so they worked together so beautifully, like communicating through the language of music, you know, just listening and just like Lucy speaking a lot of broken English. But it was just beautiful to see this collaboration happen, because I am bilingual.
Yeah.
I'm from Ontario, and I grew up learning both at the same time. I don't have an accent in either languages. I am like pure bilingual, and so is Marcelle. And we connected with that. We're connecting with that, and there's just like something really beautiful about that. So anyway, yeah, my next album will be bilingual, actually. Beautiful.
Oh, amazing! That's exciting.
That's
you know, and I think that's such a, you know, it's so wonderful to see an uptake in the province of Francophone music. You know, it's really. It's been around, you know. There are regions of our province that are French speaking entirely.
Oh my gosh.
So it's nice, you know, with the Music NL Awards to have categories that are focused on that and to really shine a light where things need to be. I think is so exciting, because it is such a rich culture. You know, and it's funny you mentioned Phil, because, you know, of course, Phil is an incredible musician. You know, the Once is a pretty significant band, and Phil's become a fantastic producer of music as well.
He's amazing. Yeah.
But also had a part in sharing with Artistic Fraud one of the very significant French musician stories, Emile Benoit, in the early 2000s. He was part of a show that celebrated that. So it's all interwoven and connected in the fabric somewhere along the way, which is wonderful.
Yeah, that's really cool. And like you were saying, like Port-au-Port Peninsula is so francophone. Like les Felix brothers, like they, you know, and their French is so beautiful, like so rich with
old French.
It's old French.
Yeah.
That's right. They'll come out with words that my father used to say sometimes. We're like, what are you saying, Dad? That's an old French word. Like, oh my God. Like, so just seeing all of these lines and finding all these paths is really cool.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I mean, Emile Benoit is a great example of an artist, because the story of his discovery was that, you know, Figgy Duff drove out to Port-au-Port. They heard this guy was a really good fiddler.
Right. Yes.
Drove out. Kelly Russell met with him and learned from him, and all the foot tapping and all those specific things. And then all of a sudden, you know, in his golden years, he recorded 2 albums.
That's crazy.
You know, that never would have been recorded other than seeing him at the town hall play.
Yeah,
you know?
and it doesn't surprise me that he had to be discovered, because there's something really insular about that community in Port-au-Port. Like, it's so hard to get those musicians out to play in CB Nuit. They've got their little French community. They play for that. They have their bingo nights and they play there. But when you go into that world, oh my God, it's so fascinating. It really is
place.
Rich. Yeah.
Yeah. If you haven't been to Port-au-Port, please do. It's such a unique scenery and such beautiful communities to go through.
Yeah.
Even if you just drive the loop, it's just so breathtaking out there. And you also do get a chance to be immersed in a culture that is so close. It's, it's an hour away.
Try to catch a bingo night at Lanceau Canal.
There you go.
Let's make a date.
Let's do that.
Yeah, I think that's the way, right? And Marcelle, of course, you're also, you moved to Newfoundland and are embracing that side as well of singing in French. So what has that been like to reignite and to get to work with an artist like Louise on that?
It has been a surprise, honestly, to kind of find, my French identity here in Newfoundland, of all places. I was born in Alberta and kind of moved eastward over the course of my life. And I did spend a number of years in Quebec, and I didn't feel French enough in Quebec, right? And so when I arrived here and I heard of Louise and, there's another French-Canadian musician here. And I actually thought to myself, am I French enough? Right? Isn't that wild?
I feel that. I know this.
But the moment that Louise and I sat down for coffee, there was no question that she accepted my experience and everything that I had to say had value. And so it's been a huge gift, actually. Yeah. And
yeah, and coming up very soon, this Sunday, November the 3rd, getting my calendar, the month changes, you have a special event happening at 62 Broadway. So let's hear about that.
Yeah, well, I have to say, I'm so excited to have met Marcelle because what she can do in terms of harmonies, to bring that to my songs is, Lucy's the woman that I worked with in Montreal who toured with me this summer, who brought harmonies to my song. But I honestly don't have anybody here. So this feels like the biggest gift. And I also just really love that we're both from Ontario and we have similar heritage, similar roots, similar references. And so this is kind of exciting. We're just getting started, but it's actually really exciting. We're going to do a little talk, kind of like an artist talk, and sort of dip into a little bit of singing on Sunday with Adrian House, who's from St. John's, and he's got a really interesting story as well. He's an Anglophone who just embraced French music because he just felt really like connected to it somehow. Yeah. And he's recorded, I think, 2 albums, if not 3, of Francophone music that he's written.
Yeah, amazing.
So he's coming there, and of course Marcelle has the West Coast a little bit, and then Ontario, and then I'm coming from Ontario. So we're kind of bringing in 3 stories of French roots and connection to French music. So, and then we're going to sing a little bit too, and Marcelle's, of course, going to bring her beautiful harmonies
I think that's wonderful. And
to the trio.
It's great to have those casual opportunities to get to meet artists and connect with artists for an audience, it is a ticketed event, but it's incredibly reasonable. 62 Broadway is where that is, happening on Sunday the 3rd. So check them out, follow them on Facebook, or find their website, 62 Broadway, and get tickets to that, because I'm sure it's going to be a wonderful thing to share in. And it will not be, I say with some confidence, the end of this relationship. I'm saying it on air, so it's going to happen
now. It's going to happen.
But we're hoping, keep an eye on Canberra Arts in February. We hope to be able to unite these wonderful artists in our wonderful intimate space. French is a language that's often affiliated with romance, so I think February is a great time to warm us all up and share in a super cozy, intimate venue some of your music. So, you know, while the contracts aren't out yet, I said it on air now. So,
We're committed now.
we're gonna progress our way through and be able to get that happening. And it's such a privilege to be able to do that and be a part of connecting these wonderful artists. You know, that's as an arts organization in Corner Brook. Big part of the job is connecting people, you know, and I think that's a massive privilege of what I get to do with this organization is to get to find those. You know, this summer we had Diantha Edmonds reunite with her teacher, Wayne Rogers, at First United Church. First concert they did together in 30 years. Oh. And it was just such a gift to see not only the wonderful musicianship, but to have an understanding of what was happening in real time. And I think bringing new people together is just as much of a privilege to be able to see a relationship form and new connections. So who knows, on that bilingual album, maybe Marcelle will be doing some harmonies on that.
I can't say I haven't thought of that.
I'm in.
So, yeah, we're getting to the point of wrapping things up now, but thank you so much for joining us here at the Stage Door. It's such a privilege to talk to you both on air and reintroduce you or introduce you to our wonderful community. And folks, I will say, for those watching, Canberra Arts has a lot of involvement here at Rogers TV. Our youth program, Graham Academy, had some members produce a show with the support of Gian called Not News. You can find that. It's airing on Rogers this week. It'll also be on the Rogers website and the Canberra Arts YouTube channel as well. So we hope that you get to enjoy that fully youth-led production. And if you're in a Halloween mood, our Graham Academy youth are releasing a Halloween special happening this evening, Halloween night, on YouTube as well. That'll be on the Graham Academy YouTube page. So hopefully you'll be able to catch those wonderful things. And thanks for joining me at the Stage Door, and we'll see you next week.